All right, Tori and Joel, thank you very
Great.
much.
Just want to confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Excellent. So good
Yep.
morning, everybody. My name is Victoria Adams. I go by Tori. And Joel and I will be presenting today about Simba and Simbachain and the products that we have developed and the experiences we've had working in government. Before we start, I'll just tell you that Joel was the founder of Simbachain, along with Dr. Ian Taylor of the University of Notre Dame and many other places. Simba's actually based out in South Bend, and initially Dr. Taylor and Joel kind of got together over an SBIR from DARPA on blockchain and successfully won that, and since that time have won multiple SBIRs from the Air Force, the Navy, Space Force most recently, the Army and the Marine Corps, and some civilian agencies. And as a result of that, we were able to successfully grow the company. Last year, we went through our Series A and raised 25 million for the firm. And we are avidly pursuing our next funding increment. So I'm going to be running the presentation today. Joel will be giving most of it. He unfortunately got dragged off on a school field trip for his children, where he is showing them around the zoo. So there might be a couple of interruptions. However, everything should go smoothly. And if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. I will monitor the chat and will stop periodically to address those questions. So without further ado, Joel.
Yeah, thanks, Tori, and thanks everybody for the opportunity to present today. So, you can go to the next slide, Tori. What Simba's really trying to do is provide like a bridge for a lot of entities that, you know, Web3 and crypto is like really, unless you're in that industry, it's very difficult to kind of harness the capabilities and other things. And so that's really what Simba started out to be, is like we wanted to be, you know, essentially like a Stripe API capability um, uh, for companies that want to have already audited smart contracts. It's an API that you hit, and it's already on chain, and it depends. You know, we were agnostic in that regard. So we've got audited smart contracts on Avalanche. We have ones on Polygon, Ethereum that are already, like I said, audited. They're secure, and then you communicate to an API. Now, many people would probably be like, "Well, this is very, you know, like OpenSea and um, uh, Alchemy or, you know, Infura. It's very somewhat centralized, but it is in that regard, but it also provides that on ramp to a distributed, so you can actually stand up multiple API nodes of our, so not necessarily decentralized, but it is a distributed capability that gives you that decentralization on ramp. And I'll get into some of the benefits of why that is. So it's kind of that Web 2.5 capability and bridging to Web 0.3. The the different production applications we have in place right now, we have fully launched enterprise with Tokes. So that's working with coffee tracing, and I'll give a demo of that. We also have the California DMV, which we're working with Tezos on, and that one is we have multiple dealerships onboarded to do car titles, both the scrapping and rebuilding of car titles, and then also the transfer of those car titles. We also have Boeing, which is fully in production with tracking of F-18 fighter parts. And we have the Bruges Marketplace, which is they're a Champions League team in Belgium, their top team, and they are launching a marketplace that is just getting ready to go this month. And then we have, like Tori said, we have projects with NIST, Department of Commerce, U.S. Air Force, Army, Navy, DARPA, and a lot of different, you know, use cases, but the three main ones we focus on within government that yield the best benefit are tokenization. So we're tokenizing dollars with Air Force, with the Air Force Installation Contract Center out of WritePad. Then we also have tokenization with Space Force that just is getting underway doing remediation of space debris. So those are the two tokenization main efforts, and those are expanding into other departments that we're talking to. Really just tracking, and once you tokenize something, you can really easily transfer and audit that. The other items are supply chain, obviously, and the third one is document integrity within 3D printing and other supply chain efforts. So it's kind of three main things. Obviously, the titles get into tokenization and document integrity and other things. So, and we have our GSA schedule. So state, local, and federal governments will be able to purchase Simbachain right from the GSA schedule. So that'll be going in this next month for completing that. So we've been working on that with GSA for like 4 or 5 months right now, and finally getting that approved pricing that government entities can just buy right off the GSA schedule. So you can go to the next slide, Tori. So yeah, we have 8,000 users, and there's actually like 2 million end users that are impacted. You know, if you drink a cup of Tokes coffee, or the military is partaking in the F-18, you know, we touch a lot of different users that are utilizing our technology. They just don't, or beneficiaries of technology. They just don't even know, you know, that they're getting the benefits of Simba. So 58 real world solutions built. We have NFT marketplaces. We have our own NFT marketplace. I'll talk about Simba Market. And it's using a different model than you might think. It's really validated and secure entities with intellectual property. So you already know that these companies own the intellectual property that they're monetizing. And then revenue significantly has increased since we started to scale. Next slide. So yeah, this is just showing you the chart. You know, like I said, like we're really trying to, we're Alchemy. You kind of have to be a very, you know, really understand Web3 and programming. Like Simba is very much more Web2. So we have a Swagger and Redoc API, which I'll show, and it's just auto generates based on that audited smart contract. So you can upskill your Web2 developers really fast using our platform. Next slide. So yeah, we all know this, you know, it's complicated, it's hard, and it's difficult. And so we're just trying to, what Simba's, you know, our goal mission is to bridge that gap and make it accessible to more people. Next slide. And so what we do, like I said, we already have user interfaces. We have audited smart contracts. They're already on chain, and we support multiple different chains with those smart contracts that are deployed already. So people don't have to worry about that management. Next slide. So this is what the Simba platform looks like. So the Simba blocks has that connectivity to the infrastructure, the blockchains, the wallets. You can have, we support custodial wallets, and we support Wallet Connect and Coinbase and MetaMask, and then Rainbow. And anyway, with the Wallet Connect, we support all kinds of different ones. With the different solutions, so you get these different blocks, like whether it be a supply chain track and trace block that has a UI with the audited smart contract, or we have the NFT blocks, or you can combine these different blocks of, like Kemper Snowboard is going to be putting NFC chips into their snowboards, which I'll get into, and they're actually minting the NFT with that. So when you resell the snowboard, the physical asset, you have a digital asset that's on chain that can be transferred really simplistically. So a lot of different use cases there, and we make it simplistic for these companies to harness that power and monetize their intellectual property and set themselves apart from the competition. Next slide. What Simba does then too is, like, when you go to write to our API, we can actually cache those transactions. So let's say you don't get the nonce collisions. We guarantee 100% of your transactions with your customers, your users that are using the dApps, make it on chain. And then you can actually handle bursts of transactions. So let's say you're using Avalanche and it can only handle 4,500 transactions per second. Well, we can actually handle bursts where you might send 100,000 transactions. It's not continuous, but we can make sure all those get on chain, and we can throttle that so that the user experience gets there. So it's much like, think of us as like almost a layer 3, I guess, to Polygon or something like that, where you're getting a lot of transactions, and they're making sure, they're anchoring and doing roll-ups to Ethereum, but we're actually doing it even more, making sure that enterprise grade application, instead of just writing purely to Polygon, you get the enterprise caching and that Simbachain provides, and don't have those nonce collisions. So next slide. So yeah, this is what you get presented. So you already get, even if you write your own smart contracts using the Simba, and we have hard hat and Truffle Suite integration, you get the auto-generated API and the documentation to that smart contract. So even if you use our audited smart contracts, or you use a write your own, and it'll auto-generate all that documentation for you with the API usage. You can go to the next slide. So yeah, these are the two solutions: the Simba blocks, and then obviously the Simba blocks is B2B, and the Simba market is B2C. So we provide two different on ramps for customers. Next slide. So Tokes, like I said, I'm gonna go over this use case, and we're gonna play a little video for you. You can go to the next slide. And they have over 200 restaurants, and we've connected to over 20 farms in this application, and it should play here, but basically it tracks the provenance, and we connected with their Oracle database. And what this allowed, these are not everybody's connected into their ERP system. So what the blockchain provided was, farmers to be able to enter in all the quality data and track that. And then it actually, inside the restaurants, customers could actually know which farmer it came from. It was very transparent, and we actually raised the value, or the economic income of these farmers by 700%, and then proved to the rest of the to the consumers that enjoy a cup of coffee of Tokes every day, that hey, I'm really providing a social good back to these farmers. I get to partake in their, because it's very rural. It's in Tacana, Mexico. It's like down very in the southern part of Mexico, and but providing this transparency to the consumer was really powerful. And so this is the Simba. The back end of this is the Simba blocks track and trace app, and can be readily deployed with and it already has like an audited smart contract for customized fields. So this is launched on Consensus Quorum, and there's multiple nodes in this group where the roasters and the other ones are hosting, and the other depots, the distribution centers, along with Tokes. So you can go to the next slide, Tori. Yeah, so this is like just kind of like go in here, and then we're adding tipping, the next phase of this. So if you're in a Tokes restaurant in Mexico, you can scan the QR code that shows the farmer's picture for that cup of coffee for the day, and it has like a sign, and you'll be able to add a tip to that if you enjoyed that cup of coffee, and adding more value back to the farmer. Next slide. So the next slide, we're working with BCSI on car titles, and we've got 5 dealerships in California that are using the mobile app that was built by BCSI, and they're using the Simba blocks platform to handle that tokenization of those car titles. And we're working directly with the CTO at the California DMV. And you can go to the next slide. Yeah, and then obviously there's a white paper out on Elsevier, the blockchain journal. It's been peer reviewed, and it was the first Navy Boeing white paper that was accepted into this journal. So it's kind of a big deal, and so it's about a 35-page white paper, and that's linked on our blog that you can find on Simbachain.com. Next slide. Yeah, so Australian Defence Force, this was really unique because they were actually writing to Ethereum mainnet, and so it was pretty interesting that they were, Australia was using the Ethereum mainnet. So what this was used for was taking the classified information and making it public. So when they're declassifying information and putting it on Twitter or Facebook, they were able to do this. And so if you go to the next slide, Tori. So yeah, this is the interface that just shows them their management. So they were working with PhotoWeb, and PhotoWeb was where they stored all their stuff that they were releasing publicly to YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. And so this was a centralized management system where they would do an upload. We would use a synaptic hash and a cryptographic hash. And I'm going to get into the next slide about why a synaptic hash is really important, because you not only need to be able to know a cryptographic hash, it's just going to say yes or no, it matches, but a synaptic hash will actually be able to query the publicly manipulated information that is off-chain, that may be in social media or something else like that. So this can really fight against misinformation, disinformation, but provides governments a way to, when they publicly release information, it's basically timestamping and notarizing that information against manipulation. And then the public can query against that information and see if it's been manipulated or modified. Now, if the government's putting out misinformation, this really doesn't help. But if you're saying, if it's the Associated Press or somebody else, they can immediately validate and see, okay, was this publicly released by their Twitter or not, or was it deep fake or something like that? So if you go to the next slide, this is the management dashboard. So what we did is we allowed these any group or person using this interface, they'd be able to see green, amber, or red. Red, obviously, super egregious, which you'll see. Amber's like, oh, I need to check this out because this is somewhat slightly manipulated. And then green would check exactly 100% against the actual originally minted file. And we can do audio, video, and photos and PDFs and text. So if you go to the next slide, Tori, we're going to go through some of these demos. The first one is just a text demo that shows the different capabilities, and this is just checking against like how much of that text has been. So this is like the user part. So I had this on my Android or my mobile device, and we had a bunch of people in Flinders University and the Australian Defence Force that would be able to see what was publicly released, go grab a photo off Twitter, and then check it against the items that were published, and be able to quickly do a check and see if somebody that reshared that, if they've manipulated the data or not. And this could be reversed to go fight bots and other things, which we're working with other groups on as well. So this does the check on that. And then when you click back on it, it'll provide, 100% match. So yeah, Tori, if you fast forward, I don't know if you're able to fast forward a little bit. We can get to the image. Yeah, so this image was obviously grossly modified. The top one is the original, and the bottom one is the one that was really manipulated. So this is going to come back with like a 6% or something. Pretty. You can kind of visually see this was modified. But if you're if you're just browsing Twitter or social media, it's like, how do I check really quick if this has been tampered with? And that's what the check comes back with. You can go back. fast forward a little further, Tori, to the video, and we do video and audio as well, um, to check, because somebody could be manipulating the video, they could just be manipulating the audio, and you want to kind of check that. So it's kind of like Shazam for, reverse checking of these items. But the cryptographic hash is important too, because we need a yes or no that the original is locked and essentially in a lockbox. And then anything that's modified from that, that's when you use the synaptic hashing to check against. So you can go to the next slide, Tori. Keep moving along. And like I said, yeah, obviously everybody's aware of NFT marketplaces. We are working with these organizations that have come to us that they're trying to build their businesses on Web3, like even ticketing, all their invoicing, supply chain. So that's, these clubs are huge. Brewers is about a $300 million publicly traded club. So very huge fan bases, and has a lot of intellectual property that they own. They want to monetize, but not only are they, they're social conscious as well. And so they want to provide that more closer fan base and traceability on the life cycle, and how does Web3 help them. And so lots of different use cases. Like I said, ticketing is obviously a big one, but just the highlights and being able to own a certain digital asset is big for these fan bases. So next slide. Yeah, you can go to next slide. So Simba Marketplace is, we have the international field hockey, the girls, the women's World Cup is coming up, and and we're also doing the men's World Cup that will be later, I think it's the beginning of next year. So those will be all launching on the Simba Marketplace. Kemper Snowboard is selling snowboards, like I said, with the NFC chips embedded in them to be able to transfer. Mogul is doing name, image, and likeness. And each one of these have their own page on the Simba Marketplace. So different entities can come monetize their space just like you would on Shopify. And we partner with these companies to get their digital assets. And this is all running on Polygon. And has the consumers have the wallets and can transfer, and eventually be able to transfer to other marketplaces as well. Right now it's just going to be Simba Marketplace and using the Polygon wallets. Then obviously Lost in Oz is really big. It's the #1 kids show on Amazon. My kids love it, and we're doing all their next show and all their digital assets for the next show in their Ozverse, as they build out their metaverse. So I think that's the end of our slides. If you go to the next slide, I think that's the end. Yeah, just kind of in closing, the simplicity in one platform. So we provide all the Web3 assets that you need in a unified API, and a quick time to market. So that's the end of our presentation. So happy to take any questions, and thank you.